Well, what we're seeing at the moment is we're not seeing a significant drop in activity in terms of workplace pensions, people saving through their employer, albeit we are hearing from employers that they're starting to see inquiries from their employees about reducing contributions. The work that we conducted was surveying 5,000 members of the British public, trying to understand how the interaction with the cost of living crisis today was interacting with the retirement living crisis that many millions of people will be facing into in the future. 11% of people were telling us that they have stopped or reduced saving for retirement in some shape or form. Not necessarily a workplace pension. People have other forms of pensions. They save for retirement through ISAs. 29% of people over the age of 60 are saving using cash savings, etc. So the term pension means something different to different people. Workplace pensions are holding up well, but other forms of pension savings seem to be taking a bit of a hit.
And why is this really important? I mean, isn't it kind of obvious that when people are feeling cash strapped, they're just going to save a little bit less? Isn't this just a natural development, or do you think it's a bit worse than that, a bit more alarming, Pete?
Well, we conducted our survey in the spring, and that was before we saw the lifting of the price cap on the energy and the full effects of the Russia-Ukraine war on prices of food, etc., and imports. So we do think that the results will get worse. We'll continue this survey every year. Of course, if you've got little headroom to get by and make ends meet in the short term, you certainly don't have the headroom to put money away from the future. As I did mention, many people are saving for the retirement through a workplace pension. Now, that means if you're putting in money, your employer's putting in money too. If you decide to stop paying into a workplace pension, your employer no longer needs to put those contributions in. And that means you could be losing out on some of the overall employee benefit package that you're entitled to. It also effectively means that you might be, selling a tenner for a fiver in the crudest sense there. So you really want to think twice. But I wouldn't encourage people to be getting into debt in order to finance savings. If you find that you're struggling, to continue with your retirement savings, seek help. The Money Helper Service is a service provided for free by the UK government to the British public. If you have concerns about credit or debt or savings or pensions, you can contact them online, or you can contact them on the phone, and they will help you with some of these big and sometimes quite significant decisions that people might be facing into at the moment.
And Pete, we know that a lot of our viewers and listeners here on GB News are self-employed people. They work or run small and medium-sized enterprises. What would you say to people in their 20s, 30s and 40s who aren't saving for a pension, who may be, working hard to make ends meet? Margins are being squeezed, the cost of materials are going up. Obviously, tax rises have just come in, national insurance, there's a corporation tax rise coming down the line if you're running a small business. What would you say to people in their younger and middle adult years who aren't saving for a pension?
Well, a couple of things. Pension contributions are a bit like snowballs. The longer that they roll forward, the larger they become. So a pound that you save for retirement in your 20s will buy you 4 times as much income when you come to retire than a pound that you put away when you're in your 50s. So it is important, those early years of saving. We understand from research that we've conducted with the self-employed that the self-employed earnings are much lumpier depending on which business line you're in. You may be enjoying a spike in earnings and profits, or you may be experiencing a trough. So the self-employed can't commit to putting, say, £200 a month into a financial services product in the same way that employed people would typically do. And we also know from the self-employed that they can't often afford to lock their money away for 30 or 40 years until they retire. So they're often looking for a savings vehicle that has more flexibility. I don't think it's critical whether you use a pension or an ISA or some other form of savings. But what's critical is to try and put away around about 12 to 15% of your earnings over the course of your working life. As I say, employed people will try and do that on a monthly or weekly basis. For the self-employed, we recognise that things are much lumpier, and it may be to try and achieve that average, as and when the business conditions allow.